Hi guys, good evening. Welcome to this Saturday Night Live. So we are back again for you all. And आज का टॉपिक बहुत खास है. Actually, we had planned something else for this Saturday, but the series of events that happened last on 26th January on last Tuesday. So we thought really to cover this as a podcast. Because we feel this as our moral responsibility to cover it, to discuss with a very senior person with us, Professor G. Krishnamurthy. Welcome to this podcast, sir.
Thank you.
And
It's a
I,
pleasure to be back here.
yeah, and I also have my co-host Ashish with me. Welcome, Ashish.
Thanks a lot, Vaibhav, and a very warm welcome to Professor Krishnamurthy, sir. Thanks a lot, sir,
Thank
for
you.
coming. And इसी के साथ, I would like to welcome all our viewers. And the first thing that you're gonna do right now is subscribe the channel, hit the like button, put that notification bell on the clock so that you don't miss anything. And right, we bring a lot of amazing stuff for you. And आज जो हम आपके लिए लाए हैं, वो 26 जनवरी पे जो events हुए हैं, so वो बहुत important थे. So that was something which was like an eye opening for a lot of people
Yeah.
as to which direction this protest is going. And if you want more information about what these farm bills are about, then you can probably go and look at our first podcast, which we had with again Krishnamurthy sir. Right,
Yeah.
Weber?
Right, right. And along with this, along with our discussion, we are also looking at the live chat. So if you have anything in your mind, you can freely post. We can have a free discussion here. So, yeah, Ashish, over to you.
Yeah, so, sir, I mean, in the first podcast that we had with you, that was the first
Yeah.
podcast of the channel as well. So, we were discussing about what these farm bills are about and all these little things. And there was a question which I raised, which was, has this entire protest become a ego statement for the government, or the farmers are getting too rigid with their demands? And on
Absolutely.
26th January, what we saw was perhaps an example of that
Mm,
was perhaps an example of that. I mean, for someone who doesn't have a view on whether the farmers are right or whether the government is right, how do you, as a neutral person, look at the events of 26th January?
I think almost certainly, I mean, there's almost no two ways about it. The events of 26th January were extremely condemnable. I mean, I accept the fact that I am reasonably neutral, but what happened that day was certainly not good. Now some 4 days have gone by, and you can, I mean, we are now it's cool, we are sort of it's cooler blood and so on. But at that instant, you were very, very
Yeah.
concerned, upset, sometimes even angry. And I think none of it was desirable, to say the least. Now, of course, blame, like what happened in January 6th in the US, I think blame can be attributed to a lot of people, more sins of omission rather than sins of commission. In the US, of course,
Hmm.
the sins of commission seem to be
Right.
far more.
Yeah.
Here, we
Right.
had a lot of sins of omission because I think almost everybody knew that there was a possibility that things could go awry once the tractor rally was
Right.
allowed.
Yeah,
I
right, right.
I'm very surprised that people actually allowed the tractor rally, because come what may, once you allow something that allows people to go
Right.
ahead and show
Have a
off yeah, then something can go wrong. I mean, the problem is that I think we did not think it through when this happened.
And
Uh,
it shouldn't have been allowed on 26th at least. You
Yeah,
could have
right.
chosen any other day.
that's right.
Actually, I
Yeah.
I also have this point. At one point of time, you were not allowing farmers to enter into Delhi, right?
Absolutely.
You were spraying water cannons, and you were pushing back the farmers. You were not allowing them to,
Exactly.
get close to Delhi border. And
Correct.
it is something amazed to me that Delhi government, not Delhi government, central government
Because,
and Delhi police allowed
Mhm.
farmers to carry out that tractor rally on 26th January.
This is, yeah,
And now if they say that the farmers were insisting to carry out the rally, no,
of
farmers
course.
are also insisting to take back all these three laws. Why don't you take that? Yeah.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
It was I think everybody anticipated that when such a huge crowd, when such a large army of tractors are going to enter the Delhi area, then it was anticipated that something's wrong going to happen. And
Absolutely.
it's not a blame on the part of that everybody is responsible for it. Yes, the responsibility lies to a small section of people who made all the chaos in
This
that
is
I
day.
always
mean, I think what Vaibhav actually is trying to say here is that perhaps the farmers or the lobby which is supporting farmers
Yeah.
was waiting from the police side one bullet to be fired, right? So that, right, they can put entire blame on them. And
Yeah.
while as the central government perhaps was hoping that something like this could happen so that they can then stop the entire movement, putting this whole narrative out. So
Yeah.
how do you look at it, sir?
I think both these are possible. I mean, unfortunately, we cannot come out with see the hope of perhaps the opposition that there would be bullets fired. It's quite likely. Some people certainly believed it, but I think the police were reasonably. I mean, they were restrained. Let's be frank. And I'm not sure that that was a good thing. I'm not saying that that was very good, because I was surprised that they were so restrained. I'm sure they
Yeah.
were given orders not to provoke at all, but they went too much to the other extreme. Clearly, as Weber pointed out, it was a minuscule minority. I mean, by and large, I think the farmers
Yeah.
have been quite remarkably peaceful, and
Hmm.
most of them were, again, they were handling it quite
Right.
well. But there was that, there was a group of people who, for whatever reason, they were charging around the
Yeah.
wild driving of tractors. I mean, that was certainly unacceptable to say
Yeah.
the least.
Brandishing of swords and all.
Brandishing of swords, I think, was more of show than anything else. These are the Nihang Sikhs. And
Hmm.
I have myself seen it in Delhi long, long ago, well before, I think, unfortunately, well before two-thirds of the audience here were even thought of, I would say, because this was when I was studying. And in Delhi,
Yeah.
the Nihang Sikhs came to, at the behest of Mrs. Gandhi, probably, and they were roaming around, which was
Hmm.
very bad. I mean, I think it was not good. That was more scary. This
Right.
one was more of show and all that, which well, certainly not good, but not, I mean, I thought the tractors were far more dangerous. And what surprised me most was the police being, I mean, they were completely overrun. There were too few of them.
Hmm. Right.
I thought again, exactly like what happened in the capital.
Hmm.
Why
Hmm.
were they so badly organized? I mean, did they not think that something would happen? I mean, later excuses that they broke through the barricades early and all makes
Hmm.
sense. But I
Yeah.
think from a law and order perspective, this was not acceptable. Not at all. You're allowing people to do whatever they want. They went to the Red Fort, and of course, the question is it justified? Under no
No
circumstances can
circumstance.
it
Yeah,
be
no, no, nobody says that it is justified. In fact, I see a lot of people, trying to justify it that it is
Right.
not no other flag. It is just
Right.
the
Right.
flag of
Of
Nishan
course,
Sahib,
of
and
course. Yeah, yeah.
but I think it is demeaning the dignity of Indian flag because
Right.
because
Everybody. Yeah.
any government building, or in fact the big monument like Red Fort deserves to have only Indian flag on it.
Fair
So
enough. And in the context, this
Right.
is Republic Day,
yeah,
and on
this
Yes.
is
Republic
yeah,
Day,
right.
I fully agree. I mean, and of course, I appreciate the fact that people were saying it's a Khalistan flag, which is nonsense. It was
Yeah,
certainly
Nonsense. Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, right,
all
correct.
that is beside the point. The point
Hmm.
is you were trying to say that my flag, the flag of
Yeah.
the Gurdwara and all that, should be placed there.
Hmm.
I think on that particular day, it is not acceptable.
Not acceptable. Right.
Not
Yeah.
acceptable at all.
Right. Right.
What will pass off as a harmless jest on normal days, like today, somebody goes and protests.
Right.
I mean, who cares? I mean, it's
And
okay.
and I think with the flag hoisting of such an incident, and putting Nishan Sahib's flag, I think there's a unnecessary color of religion which has hijacked
That
the entire
any, yeah.
farmers
Fair
daily.
enough, but that's I think that's a minor point. I mean, the religion
Hmm.
Right.
part is a minor point. I think any flag would be wrong
Yeah,
on that
Yeah.
particular day
Right.
and under those circumstances. I
Right.
yeah,
probably would buy the argument that the person who did it probably did it reasonably innocently, because you could have. I mean, I would probably say that in the heat of the moment, you tell somebody, "Arey, hum upar nahi ja sakte, tum ja sakte ho," and yeah, it's
Right.
possible.
Right.
Somebody
Right.
who's very athletic
yeah,
is
Right.
also proud of it, would like to show off. I wouldn't blame that person as much as the person who actually organized or who came out with this idea. What was
Right.
yeah.
absolutely, not acceptable, no matter what,
What?
the cause may have been very good. In fact, let us take that argument that the cause was wonderful. I mean, the
Hmm.
farm laws should be. I will go by saying let the farm laws be repealed. It makes sense. Everything. I will still say doing all this was completely unacceptable.
Right.
Going to the Red Fort was not desirable. It should not have happened.
Yeah,
Worse, putting that flag, and it's as if you're cocking a snook at the Indian government, at everybody. I mean,
right.
and that was not done. That is quite simply not done.
Right. So, I mean, so we've discussed in detail and the point of views regarding the 26th January events, but then something really dramatic happened the days after that, right?
Mhm.
Because there were two Kisan Sanghs which
Hmm.
pulled out their support from the movement,
Right,
right?
Yeah.
And then UP's Chief Minister Yogi
right.
Adityanath gave orders that I don't want the protest in my state, end it. And then all those tambus were getting uprooted and everyone was going back.
Correct, correct.
And then
Hmm.
comes in the media the image of Tikat
Yes.
crying, right?
Rakesh, yes, correct. Rakesh,
Rakesh Tikat crying.
Hmm.
And
correct.
suddenly there was this furor. All the
Right.
opposition leaders came together.
Hmm.
Now the immense, I mean, I think this is perhaps the most powerful moment of this movement. Right
Yeah.
now, everyone is coming. So, I mean, how
He's
do you look
brought
at
in
the
emotion.
events? Yeah. So, how do you look at the events now? What does it mean?
Still difficult to say because things are still very fluid. But you are very correct that Rakesh Tiketh has exploited what was a very intellectual, still, I mean,
Right.
it was a furor, intellectual furor, and all that, and
Hmm.
somehow managed to make the government look bad by
But,
crying. I
Hmm.
mean, shedding tears for his farmer brethren and so on. I mean, that's the impression that he has
right.
successfully
Yeah.
managed to convey. Now,
Hmm.
that is, I think, I think where the government had a moral superiority by
Hmm.
hurrying this
Hmm.
getting rid of the guys,
Hmm.
and obviously, doing some very ham-handed activities like letting guys through and asking them to beat up the farmers, which is stupid.
Right.
I mean, I think that
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
utterly unnecessary, and of course, removing electricity and all, which
Hmm.
should be done, but in a cold, very ice cold
Right.
fashion and so on. Right now, this guy has hijacked it very cleverly by crying and on TV and so on. Which, I mean, and I know that. I mean that it's quite likely to be could be
Hmm.
a bit of acting, a lot of histrionic
Right.
effect, but it has been successful in uniting the farmers together.
Right.
That
Hmm.
is, from that perspective, I think it has been quite successful, and I would suspect that the government has had to. Now it's gone on the back foot. The UP government has
Hmm.
stopped all those,
Right.
or whatever they were saying. The
Hmm.
courts are now looking at the fines and so on and so forth, which means that it is not something that is getting accepted and so on. So I think the first 2 days the government was definitely feeling that they had some high moral ground. That seems to be getting eroded again, and that is not nice. That is not good for any government. They should not be in that state. Some
Hmm.
they have had some good things in the sense that Anna Hazare has withdrawn his
Yeah. Right.
fast,
Yeah.
but
Indefinite fast. Hmm.
yeah, the indefinite fast, which may have been It may have
That
been
that could have caused a real trouble. That could
could
have
have,
caused a
could
real
have,
trouble.
but I'm
Yes.
not sure
Yeah.
that it
Hmm.
is needed, because I
Right.
think unfortunately the farmers are now
Uh,
more united than before.
just one question on that. I mean, I might be drifting apart. I totally understand the non-violence and the importance of non-violence and its methods. But when you say that I am going to do an indefinite fast, if
Hmm.
you don't do certain thing, isn't that blackmailing?
Yes, it is unquestionably.
Yeah.
Even when Mahatma Gandhi used to do it, and he did it quite successfully on a number of occasions,
Right.
no less a person, in fact, no less than quite a number, which is, I think, the greatness of Mahatma Gandhi, but no less a person than Rabindranath Tagore said that this is nothing but blackmail and
Right.
should never be countenanced. For
But
example, he went on
but
first.
yeah, but sir, as you said, I mean, I totally understand, and but that was a different context, right? We were fighting against someone who's ruling us, who's
Yeah.
not our own. This is against your own government. How do you blackmail your own government whom you have elected? I mean, my thing is, Supreme Court has come into it. They are
Hmm.
making a panel. Let the farmers come into it. I understand. I mean, I don't know if the farm bills are so bad that the entire nation should be allowed to burn. But the
Yeah.
point is, have a middle ground. Have a middle ground. I mean,
Hmm.
this is both for the government and both for the farmers. I come from a family where my grandfather still farms,
Hmm.
so I think so would be with you, sir, and with Weber.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
why aren't we coming to a middle ground? What's the problem? What's the real deal here?
Yeah.
Are big, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Weber.
and along with this, I also want to say that around more than around 11 talks have been already held in the past
11 rounds
regarding
of talk. Yeah.
yeah, so regarding reaching a middle ground with respect to laws. And then I mean you can obviously do whatever you want, and doing a fast like this, I mean this makes more sense when the government is very adamant that we are not even talking, then you do whatever you want. I mean government is being flexible enough to reach to a middle ground, and they are having the talks with the farm leaders. But now if you see, I mean there is a deadlock kind of situation which is coming, which I can see. So now what's your opinion on that as well? How do you see it resolving?
Okay, there's part one. So let's split this into two questions.
Yeah.
One is about the blackmail. Second is about the deadlock and so on and so forth. Now the first part, unquestionably, it's blackmail. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And irrespective of what we talk about, about the British government or whatever, we must remember that those days the British considered India to be. I mean, they were part of India. Let's
Hmm.
be fair about it. So it's like the government. I mean, we rule it. I mean,
Hmm.
that's fine. So now many of Gandhi's actions were very good. Some were definitely open to criticism, especially when he went on fast. Some of those, I think, as Rabindranath Tagore pointed out, this is not correct,
Right.
and he objected to a number of those things. In fact, in my opinion, that was probably the greatness of Gandhi. He would come out with his point of view. If he would sometimes insist on that, but he would take the criticism also, and that is great. I mean, we keep talking about how today people are like Gandhi and all. It makes me laugh because nobody can take the kind of criticism
Right.
he did,
Yeah.
and
Right.
took it well. And he would change his views. I mean, the Gandhi of 1900 versus the Gandhi of 1945 was hugely different on
Hmm.
everything.
Right.
So I would say that Anna Hazare's this one. I mean, it's a very pathetic opinion. I mean, in my opinion, a
Right.
very pathetic
Way of right.
try to. Yeah, somehow I'm
Hmm.
not very convinced that it is very disinterested or whatever. And the way he withdrew was even funnier.
Yeah.
Prakash Narayan, I would suspect, was probably better, but
Hmm.
he had the inestimable advantage of having been part of the Congress and seeing Gandhi, and he was a very good friend of Nehru. Also, one has to
Hmm.
agree with that, all
Right.
that kind of stuff. So clearly,
Hmm.
those were a different era, and this one was not. I don't think it was valid. But the other part, the second part is more important. It's the deadlock and so on. The farmers, I think, a little bit, the leaders have lost a little control over the movement. Now, almost, I mean, they cannot, in all fairness, immediately say yes to this withdraw. I mean, this saying 1.5 years we will not have the farm laws. That was something that we had discussed last time, and I thought that that was quite a good climb down
Yeah.
Right.
and try to persuade what is good, what is bad, make the changes.
Mm.
As I said, those unfortunate problems in the farm laws, they have to be changed.
Yeah.
You
Right.
cannot have a definition of a farmer as somebody, as me, growing a cauliflower in my house, I'm a farmer.
Right.
I mean, that's a ridiculous state of affairs. You have to change that.
And for
Clearly,
that, I'll just ask the viewers to please go and look at the first podcast where Krishnamurthy sir was explaining all these things.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
So
Please.
minor. And of course, the legal part, but those are minor. But I think they have got. This is an unfortunate problem with movements of this nature,
Hmm.
where you become rigid because you have behind you the shared experiences of staying in the cold. A lot of people have
Hmm.
fallen ill. Quite a number have died. So
Right.
these
Right.
are unfortunate problems, and I think there has been a fair amount of lack of sympathy shown. I
Right.
mean, I think many people have gone around talking about them as being Deshdrohis and all that. I
Which
mean,
is nonsense, utter nonsense,
which is very unfortunate
utter
and
nonsense.
which is not
Yeah.
fair to anybody.
Yeah.
In fact, in 2019, the French farmers who were being criticized for their
Yeah.
inefficiency, they took a tractor rally into Paris.
Yeah.
Very famous, and I could not help but recall that and say, I
Yeah.
mean, there seems to be no difference between
Right.
just because they're French and we have, say,
Yeah.
Punjabi, Indian, wo sab chodo. They're everything.
Yeah.
When you,
It's same.
if
We,
I,
we
if
have
I
we
meet
have
you with
tractors. We'll take them to the city.
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Because and the reason is that you are being insulted. I mean,
Hmm.
Yeah.
not that
Right.
those guys are being. Problem is that you are going ahead full steam and insulting people left and right. You feel very bad.
Hmm.
And the Frenchmen, in fact, went to the extent of saying, "Okay, you guys grow your food, and we are inefficient. We don't know how to grow food. So you go ahead, do it. We'll stop."
Right. Okay, so on that note, I'd like to now take some closing comments
Yeah.
from both of you, Vaibhav and Krishnamurthy sir. But the question on which I'm gonna take your closing comments are to Vaibhav. My question is, Vaibhav, how does it feel when you see public property being burned and you know that you're paying the taxes for it? Does it burn a hole in your pocket? But how do you feel on that? So I want an answer from you on that. And with Krishnamurthy sir, I want the answer, the closing comments as to uh, definitely there has been this. एक माहौल बना दिया गया है against the farmers, and we know that the farmers have some legitimate issues, right? But somehow they have lost their way. So how do they come back on track, negotiate well with the government? And let's be fair, this is a government that we chose, so we should not be looking at them as enemies. So how can we soon find a middle ground? So I'll start with Weber. If you could just give your closing arguments on that.
Yeah, Ashish, I would say that yes, definitely paying taxes burn a hole in my pocket, and I would say that I mean we are just minority tax. If you see the direct taxpayers with respect to the entire population of the country, we are in
Right, right,
minority.
absolutely.
So, I mean, damaging public property and creating ruckus like this is unjustifiable, and I think yeah, people who feel it and understand it, that yes, that this is our money, and not just the direct taxpayers, the indirect taxpayers as well, because whatever we buy we pay taxes and that is being utilized. So basically it's not just about some very few amount of people paying direct taxes, it's about everybody.
Everybody.
Right.
So that the public property which you are destroying is basically it's your own money. It's
Yes.
so basically
Right.
it's
True.
it's equivalent to you are burning a 2000 rupee note. It's
Right.
equivalent to
Right.
that.
Right.
So this is I think if I am feeling bad about it because I just been thinking a little bit, and I think this should be failed to everybody, and obviously I would like to denounce this act of damaging public property. There is no doubt in that,
Right.
Ashish. Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, to you.
Right. So, regarding the farmers who have lost, I mean, as you say, they've lost the way or something, I think they're trying their best to come back. It requires a cool head, and some of them, I think quite a few of the leaders,
Right.
surprisingly, they've been very mature, and I think
Yes.
even otherwise, I think Ticket, for example,
Hmm.
his father was, of course, one of the huge, I mean, an immensely formidable leader. I wouldn't say that he was somebody
Respected.
whom yeah,
Yeah.
definitely highly
Well
respected.
respected.
I would not
Yeah.
say that he was somebody whom I admired a lot.
He-
That is a
But
different.
formidable force.
No, no, that's true. Well, you don't need to
Yeah.
admire every leader. You can
Yeah.
admire some, you need not
Right.
admire some. You admire parts of some. But
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
guy has
Hmm.
definitely introduced that emotion into this, which is a two-edged sword because it could
Hmm.
cut you either way.
Hmm.
Right.
But
Yeah.
definitely he has got some hold, and that's I'm not sure that that is good or bad. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think the farmers, otherwise, most of them, they have done a tremendous job of having a peaceful, this peaceful satyagraha almost.
Yeah.
Right.
And this has been now they really commanded a lot of respect, which has lost some of its sheen after Republic Day, but I think with their they have done some good damage control. They said February 1st they will not go for the
Yes.
budget meeting.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Right.
30th
Right.
will be sort of
Hmm.
they Mahatma Gandhi is passing away, so they will mourn about. They will
Right.
also reflect on their problems. I think
Yeah.
that was very clever. I mean,
Yeah.
that
Wise
was a
step.
very good thing.
Wise.
Very good,
Wise step. Yeah.
very wise. I think a very smart way of getting back the moral high ground. And unfortunately, the government has lost a little bit of its
Right. Right.
moral high ground with some of its actions, which I think was unnecessary. Again, unnecessary.
Right.
Uh, I would say that, of course, it's a popular government, and they should
Hmm.
therefore try to. I mean, not say right at the outset we will not talk with them and all. I mean, you just have to eat your
Right.
words. You of
Right.
course you have to talk with them. I mean, and there's no harm in talking with anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
so I would say that a little bit of well, they are being a little. I mean, I would expect the government to be a little more mature. I mean, I would say that the prime minister has been very good in the sense that he has not made any comments overt or whatever. But the others, the ministers, have to handle it a little
Right.
better. That's all. I think
Yeah.
it's overall. I'm hopeful that something will come up soon, and eventually people will accept the fact that an 18-month hiatus will probably help and so on.
Right.
Though for practical purposes, initially everybody will say no, 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 you have to repeal.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You
Right.
can't do anything else. I mean,
Hmm.
you can't afford to say that I will lose
Right.
face by
Yeah.
accepting the minister's statement, which I think that they will. I mean, I think they would have probably accepted it
Yeah.
because they really went back, but probably the hotheads would have said, "No, no, no, we have to repeat." Fair
Right.
enough.
Yeah.
No, it's
So
a
pretty, yeah. So pretty much what we are saying here, I mean, everyone is that better sense has to prevail sooner,
Yep.
and all these incidents should not happen. And also because it's a movement of our farmers, so let's not call them or give them any other name than Annadata. They are our Annadata. Let's give them their due respect and let's treat them fairly. Also to the government, let's be more mature. You are the popular government, so behave accordingly. And that's what Professor Krishnamurthy is
Yeah.
explaining over here, and Vaibhav has his points. And to all our viewers, thank you for logging in, watching this live session with Professor Krishnamurthy sir. So subscribe now, watch our first podcast as well to get a better understanding कि ये farm laws हैं किस बारे में. Over
Yeah.
to you, Vaibhav.
Yeah, and I think Ashish, you have covered pretty much everything. I would just like to say कि like बटन दबा दो यार and जैसे आशीष हमेशा बोलता है I would like to repeat his dialogue कि कान मरोड़ के नीला कर दो like बटन का and yeah do subscribe us do join us for every Saturday night live telecast which we are having at 9 p.m. and yeah if you find this talk useful do share with your friends and yeah peace out bye bye good night
And thanks a lot, sir, for joining us. Thank you.
my
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.